Hello to my 7 wonderful subscribers. I love you guys. Thank you for subscribing to my channel and making this something that I'm doing for the good of mankind. I want to get to know John a little bit, okay? Like I said before, I'm really a nobody. I don't pretend to be anybody. I don't pretend to be educated, a genius, nothing. I'm a horse groom. I look after horses. I've always said I had a problem with jobs where people were my superiors. People aren't my superiors, but I also know what is superior to me. And I gotta tell you, what is superior to me is a 1,200-pound thoroughbred horse. Or a standard bred horse, one way or the other. I know they're superior to me. Maybe not mentally, but boy, oh boy, they can hurt ya. So, I spent most of my life taking care of horses. I can feel horses. It's in my soul. I love the animals. I love the horses. Don't love the racing so much, but I realize horses are to be raced. Okay? So, what I'm going to talk about today, I want to tell you a little bit about me and where my thinking would come from and the process of developing my opinions and my thoughts. My wife calls me unique. You can judge for yourself. First of all, my next video, I'm going to review a book called Fear of Freedom by Erich Fromm. The thesis of the book, the idea of the book is that the more freedom we get, the less freedom we want, and that people inherently want to be part of a group. And when we're not a part of a group, we get afraid, we do stupid things, and we do whatever we can to become a part of the group. Now, this book was written in 1942. That was at the height of the Nazi regime. And a lot of this book talks about the psychology behind how the people were convinced to follow a maniac. And the reason why it started to interest me, and I've read this book maybe 7, I told you how I read books. I've read this book 7 or 8 times, and I'll tell you what, I don't understand most of it. I keep reading it and reading it and reading it, hoping I'm going to get smart enough to understand it. It hasn't worked to this point, so I'm reading it again. So I think that the theory behind it is right. We get too much decision-making power as people, and it messes us up, and it makes us revert back to childhood and look for somebody to make the decisions for us. The reason I'm talking about this and why I did the video about the Nazis, scientists in America, is because I think that ideology has permeated the American society, and because America runs the bloody world, we got to be careful about what's going on there. And Hitler went for power, got stopped, got put in jail, wrote a book, got out, and took over 70-odd million people. Look at what's going on in America today. I'm not American, I'm Canadian. And it's important to me to know what's going on south of the border, because sooner or later, I don't think there's going to be a border. So, Donald, I'm talking about you. People, I'm talking about following him. You're not lemmings. Open mind, empty mind. In my opinion, there's only one way to open your mind, and that's to empty it. And it shows up in Canadian, I can talk about Ontario because that's my province, that's where I come from. But this open mind, empty mind thing is coming up. People are so well educated, they're so smart, they've turned back to stupid. Okay? Before you talk about having an open mind, you better empty it out, because all the stuff you learned all the way through. I had problems in school because I didn't believe anything, and I don't believe anything I'm told. If somebody's trying to tell me something that doesn't sit right for me in here, I'm looking into it. I'm wondering, why are you telling me that when that doesn't make any sense? And we can talk about other things in the future. I don't want to say anything now because I don't want to get into trouble. Okay? I'm trying to do this for the good of mankind and for people to open up their minds and open up themselves. Get yourself out of there. Quit being what everybody's told you to be and be yourself. That's going to be the key to the future of mankind here. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but yourself can free your mind. That's my opinion. Come on. Empty it out, let it go. I talked yesterday about my personal defecation therapy, and maybe that's the medical concern that I shouldn't have talked about. It was supposed to be a joke, okay? We talk about ourselves as being human beings. We're superior to every other form of mankind, or every other form of life, okay? Just two things that spring to mind right at the beginning for me. We can't see in the dark, and we can't shut off our ears. Okay? In my opinion, that's God, whoever your God would be, whatever you be. He created us in an image, and we can't see in the dark. Well, why can't we see in the dark? Because we have to look for the light in here. And why we can't shut off our ears? If we could shut off our ears, you wouldn't have to listen to people like me preaching to you. I said, I'm a nobody. I'm a horse groom. I spent most of my life in a stall with a horse. And in the day, in the 90s, when I was active for a long period of time, we lived in the barn with the horses. We lived in a room that was maybe 7 feet wide by 10, 7 by 10, 8 by 10, something like that. We lived in the barn. Can't do that now. The Ontario government's controlled the racetracks so tight that the industry's changed, and I'm going to talk about that in a future video. I want this to be quick. I want you to know I'm not educated. I'm educated in the school of life. I've been around the world. I've lived in, I was writing down how many places I've lived in. I've lived in like 38 different places, some of them in the same city, but in different parts of the city. And I've worked at, I'm 66 years old, and I've worked at 54 jobs. I've been on unemployment insurance when I worked as a gardener, where I'd work all summer and get 2 or 3 months off in the winter. So I have been kind of, I guess you say, on the dole. I've been supported by my government. But for the most part, I've always gone out and always been able to find a job. And why I've always been able to find a job is because I do jobs that most people that look like me won't do. And I do it because I really like the people that I work with, that are most of the time people that other people are looking down at. So I have no problem with that. I spent most of my life covered in shit, and most of the time I feel like I'm still covered. So only the truth is real. Peace out.